Hello all, welcome to study 94 of the Solving Studies to Improve Chess Calculation series. This position comes again from the Russian chess composer Gleb Zakhodyakin. This is an interesting one, it's white to play and draw. As always, I suggest you watch the guide if you haven't, so you can extract the best from the practice. And the countdown starts, and then I catch you back with the solution. And here we are. As always, let's start with the first right move, which is g7 check. Brilliant one. Of course, now black is forced to take the pawn. Otherwise, if the king goes to the side, I use this simple move attacking the pawn. And black needs to move away with the king. Otherwise, if he tries to play smart and promote to the queen, I simply check the king. The king moves, and I will able to checkmate the king. So over here, black is forced to accept the pawn sacrifice. Of course, on the starting position, it's very obvious for us that black is threatening to promote to the queen, which is unstoppable. And for white to find a way to draw, needs to kind of find a fortress or some kind of situation where black is unable to break it and force progression to a win. So over here, things like check may be considered, but after the king moves away, now I have my bishop attack. If I move and attack the pawn, well, this allows black to promote, and moves like this one, checking, well, I can take with the knight, for example. Now the pawn takes, I take back, and as you can see, it's game over for white. I don't even know if there isn't a faster way, but anyway, it's a loss. So in the starting position, it's very difficult. We need to first check the king. The knight is forced to take the pawn, of course. And now the idea is going to be clear. We check the king because the king is with lack of space. Now we have our bishop attack and our knight attack. But we win one tempo by removing the bishop, attacking the pawn. So now if the king accepts our knight, we simply take the pawn. This is an easy draw. And so, of course, black goes for the promotion, and now it's white to play again. And so we can secure our knight safely by checking, and the king goes to the corner. And this is the critical position. What's happening over here? So we are almost building a fortress. So if we are able to place our bishop safely on this long diagonal, ideally on the f6 square, would be perfect because the bishop is protecting the pawn is protecting the bishop and the knight, and so it's impossible for black to remove the knight because the knight would be pinned, and the black queen attacking just our king alone, it's impossible to win, so we would get the draw. But we need to be careful because our king is in the open space, so things like this one are being threat, but over here we start to notice already something. Okay, the pawn is untouchable because if the queen takes the pawn by any chance, then we will have the fork over here. Of course, I'm not going to play this one. This was just for demonstration purpose. This fork is going to protect our pawn. So the pawn is protecting itself with the threat of the fork by the knight. And this gives us some ideas because if we are able to check the king and fork this square, we are also able to fork two more squares, even three more squares. And so over here, it's easy to find the correct move, which is bishop d6, because over here the bishop is also untouchable, because if the queen in any scenario takes the bishop, of course we are going to check the king and take the bishop back. The problem is over here, what happens if the knight tries to move away? Well, but if the knight tries to move away, like for example going over here, forking our bishop and knight, well, white can simply reach the long diagonal, forcing the knight to come back, and now whatever the move, it's reaching our ideal position. And of course, as you know, we can be here forever until we reach the 50 move draw rule, but black won't be able to win it anymore. So other potential tries that would miss would be to be, for example, going to the diagonal directly. This just allows the simple fork from the queen and taking our bishop. Other idea that fails is bishop a3. Of course, we saw already that checking and taking the pawn is not the aim, but black has this resource, checking the king from diagonal. Let's say the king comes for for b1, and now brings the knight. It can bring the knight out. Why? Because when the bishop threatens the king, and of course we were expecting the knight to come back, well, the knight can go to d4 and now blocks the check from the king. Of course, you may think, okay, but now I will win the knight. Well, no, you aren't, because we are going to check the king taking the knight. So let's say, for example, the king moves over here. I can take, and as you can see, this is winning for black. So the interesting position is over here, where we see that we can go to other untouchable squares, and so that's why we have find the correct continuation. Of course, over here, black can try to go to e1, but as we saw, we can play simply bishop e5, reaching the long diagonal, and if the queen takes the bishop, we simply check the king and take the queen back, and we get the desired draw. I think it's a very enjoyable one. Hope you also have found that. And as always, I see you in future studies. Bye bye.